All right, folks, I'm back to talk to you about narrow aperture, or a deep depth of field. All right, and again, what is a deep depth of field? It is much like a shallow depth of field. And like any depth of field, it is still the measure of how much of a picture is in focus. If there's a lot in focus, it's a deep depth of field. Think like water. The more you have, the deeper it is. If there isn't very much in focus, it's more of a shallow depth of field. The less you have, the shallower. And what difference can it make? Using a deep depth of field or a narrow aperture creates opportunity for a near excessive amount of detail that helps go beyond the aperture of human eyesight, which is typically between 2.8 to 8.3. Narrow aperture or deep depth of field images are often landscapes. The image shown above is one taken by someone whom I went to high school with. He does a lot of landscape and automotive photography. And here's another one of his images. And when you view a landscape in real life or as an image, we like to take a step back and admire all the features before us. The more of it that's in focus, the more there is to appreciate. You can see this a lot in any kind of a painting that has a lot of detail. Someone might take a step back and take some extra time to look at it to see all the little details and tidbits that went into the drawing and to see how it might have changed things, or if it doesn't change things, how does it make you feel? Why or why not? The same happens in an image that you might take a photo of. Sorry, that was the lunch bell. However, an image using a deep depth of field doesn't necessarily need to be a full-blown landscape. It can be done indoors as well. However, if an image is shot indoors, lighting might be more of a problem, as the higher your aperture, or the more narrow it becomes, the more light it will take to make sure that everything is focused. Else, you might end up with a blurry image because the shutter stays open too long trying to get the amount of light, or if the shutter speed doesn't adjust to be longer for it, you might end up with an image that's just plain too dark. And so if you're shooting indoors or if you're shooting outdoors and light seems to be an issue, using a tripod might be useful. And now for your assignment. Much like the last times where I wanted you to shoot a a shallow depth of field, today I would like you to shoot a deep depth of field or narrow aperture landscape image. It is to be shot outside the classroom. And don't forget to put your camera into AV mode. And when in AV mode, you can just use the wheel by the shutter button to adjust your aperture rating. The higher, the better for this assignment. Try to stay above 7.1 or so. But be careful going too high. You might need a tripod to keep the camera steady long enough to get enough light for a good shot.